Well, hello and welcome, Power Partners. This is Star Style, Be the Star You Are. We're brought to the airwaves under the auspices of Be the Star You Are charity, and we're coming to you on the Voice America Network, the Empowerment Channel. I am Cynthia Bryan, and today's show we have a special guest coming up in segment 2. Elizabeth Husserl is a registered investment advisor representative, and she's written a new book called The Power of Enough: Finding Joy in Your Relationship with Money. So we're going to be talking about that. In segment 1, it's all about abundance, because I don't believe abundance is about acquiring a luxury house, a fancy car, expensive clothes, or a jet set lifestyle. So I will talk to you about that and read to you a chapter from my book, Be the Star You Are: 99 Gifts for Living, Loving, Laughing, and Learning to Make a Difference. And in our third segment, we are living in stressful times. I mean, there is political polarity, climate disasters, global wars, the recent pandemic, and everyday challenges. Everything just compounds, and mental health problems, especially in youth, are rising with the uncertainty in living. Mindfulness practices may help to foster more tranquility. So we're going to do some transformative mindfulness um, ideas that might foster that calm and lead to more happiness. The miracle moment for today is brought to you by Be the Star You Are. Please visit the website at bethestaryouare.org. And this is attributed to St. Francis of Assisi. I think probably one of everybody's favorite saints, especially since I have a barnyard full of adopted animals. So I think that's a good one. Start by doing what's necessary, then do what's possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible. So again, just do what's necessary, do what's possible, and then we'll probably find that you're doing the impossible. And again, that's attributed to St. Francis of Assisi. Well, since this show is really about the power of enough today, I thought I would start with the gift of abundance. And this is the first chapter that I wrote in my book, Be the Star You Are: 99 Gifts for Living, Loving, Laughing, and Learning to Make a Difference. And it just made sense for today's show. I grew up on a farm, the eldest of 5 children. Our parents taught us certain values: hard work, loyalty to family and friends, responsibility, and keeping your word. We learned to be independent and self-sufficient. And although we had few possessions and even less money, we were content in our simple, natural surroundings. I personally can't imagine a better upbringing for a child. Our playground was the vineyards, the hills, and the dales. Our companions were horses, cows, sheep, chickens, ducks, rabbits, goats, dogs, and cats. And as we hiked the mountains and paddled the creeks, we pretended we were explorers discovering new worlds. We had caves to hide in. Mustard fields were our doll houses. We drove tractors, plowed fields, picked fruit until our hands were raw. The nearest neighbor children lived 2 miles away, so our life was mostly within our immediate family. And every season brought new adventures and excitement. Preparing the vegetable garden in spring, going on camping trips in the summer, hay rides and harvest festivals in the fall, and enjoying those warming fires and holiday magic of winter. Life on the farm was fun, it was challenging, it was hard work, and yet it was so full of promise. We didn't have fancy clothes. We had a pair of Levi's, a pair of boots, a couple of shirts, a school uniform, and a good Sunday church outfit. And twice a year at Christmas and Easter, our Auntie Cleo would take us shopping and buy us one new outfit. These were thrilling excursions. I learned to sew in high school so I could have a bigger wardrobe. And since I was the eldest, my sisters inherited my hand-me-downs. We always felt a sense of abundance because we were surrounded by delicious homegrown food, a close-knit family, plenty of trees and land to roam, and we were truly rich in spirit, if not in money. And from my first awareness, I knew I was important. I grew up believing that I had the power to achieve anything I ever wanted, as long as I was willing to work diligently to get it. It never occurred to me that I could or should be handed something free simply because I wanted it. Yes, I am definitely an optimist. My glass is always half full, even when it's filled with some bitter medicine. My life has been a rose garden, albeit with lots of thorns and tragedies. As a child, I almost died of encephalitis. Many people I have loved died at early ages from accidents or illnesses. And because of these experiences and many more, I have learned that our greatest failing is not to take action, not to sing our song. I admit that living expansively and exuberantly isn't always easy. Sorrow and pain make us want to contract and withdraw, not expand and excel. We live well only when we embrace this paradox, the very fragility, pathos, and unpredictability of life. That's what makes every moment precious. So my aim has always been to persuade and push and compel others to live every minute fully and consciously, because we never know how many chances we'll have to get it right. Life is finite. If I am driven in my mission, it's because of my own agony in dealing with loss. What I have learned is that pain, suffering, emptiness, and loneliness are an important part of the human experience. Everyone, rich or poor, weak or powerful, endures these emotions. We are here on earth to learn, to laugh, to cry, to feel, to love, and have pain, and mostly to be. Most important, we are here to live and make a difference. Part of getting it right is getting it wrong. We are not the same, but we are all one. Abundance is not about acquiring a luxury house, a fancy car, expensive clothes, or a jet set lifestyle. Abundance is about feeling that there is enough in life for everyone. My early years taught me that a sense of abundance goes far beyond material things. It spans our spiritual life, emotional stability, intellectual stimulation, and physical closeness to the earth. Having abundance means having fresh air to breathe, clean water to drink, food in our stomachs, a roof overhead, somewhere to walk and feel the beauty of nature, someone to love, and someone who loves us in return, laughter, learning, and the wealth of health. As children, we were taught to be happy for another's success and to believe that there is abundance in all things. So if someone else can achieve greatness, so can I, and so can you. We are rarely lacking in abundance, just the ability to understand the meaning of simple abundance. The world is a place of emotional and spiritual plenty. As my mother always said in Italian, abbondanza. Notice and be grateful for everything you have, because abundance is everyone, everywhere, everything. And I have a little exercise that you might do that could really help you with this abbondanza. And it is this: shut your eyes, imagine in vivid detail everything you feel you really need to have a fulfilled life. Your list will be unique to you, but it may include loving relationships, children, animals, a home to live in, food on the table, clothing, a car, enjoyable work, and so forth. And once you see yourself surrounded by everything you need, add some of the things you want. Open your eyes, get out your pen, and then make 3 columns. Those columns are what I need, what I want, and what I have. Then every day you write down the things that you give thanks for: the sunrise, a beautiful garden, a pillow to lay your head on. Recognize the abundance around you and tell yourself frequently, I have abundance in all things. There is enough to go around. And then work hard, dream hard, laugh hard, and live abundantly. And if you are interested in getting an autographed copy of the book, Be the Star You Are, 99 Gifts for Living, Loving, Laughing, and Learning to Make a Difference, please go to CynthiaBryan.com and you can click on the Star Style store, and you can just click on books. And once you get there, you'll be able to get the book. And I think that you will love it. So again, CynthiaBryan.com. Well, that is the segment on abundance. And I hope that you all have plenty of abundance in your life and that you feel that you are enough. You're listening to Cynthia Bryan. This is Star Style, Be the Star You Are. We'll be back in our next segment with our special guest, Elizabeth Husserl, and her book is called The Power of Enough, Finding Joy in Your Relationship with Money. Stay with me. Well, thanks so much for staying with us here on Star Style, Be the Star You Are. I am your host, Cynthia Bryan. This show is on the Voice America Network, and we're on the Empowerment Channel. And I am excited to bring you the book, The Power of Enough, Finding Joy in Your Relationship with Money. I have the author with us, Elizabeth Husserl, and she is going to be talking about how we can all have abundance and all feel like we are enough. She's a registered investment advisor. She is the co-founder of Peak 360 Wealth Management, and she does workshops at tech companies all over the place. She lives in the San Francisco Bay Area, yay, California. And welcome, Elizabeth, to Star Style, Be the Star You Are.
Thank you, Cynthia. It's such a joy to be here. And I love hearing the title of the book read back to me. It just makes me smile. So thanks for having me. I can't wait to dive in.
Well, it makes me smile too, because this is like a big message that I've been doing for my whole career is that we
Yeah.
are all enough.
Yeah.
And we all have abundance, and no matter who we are, where we are, and we really have to acknowledge that. But what
Yeah.
you say in your book, The Power of Enough, Finding Joy in Your Relationship with Money, is you start off by really saying that we get so overwhelmed with money, right? And we all have such different attitudes towards money. So, how is it that people, we get into this idea of not enough? So,
Yeah.
could you talk about the abundance scarcity cycle that people get this mindset? And um, I mean, if we can just switch it to we all have abundance, then things, magic starts to happen.
Yes, and I think so. I'm going to answer in several ways, but I think what I would start by saying is abundance mindset definitely has a role to play, right? Abundance mindset can help us see the glass half full instead of half
Hmm.
empty. But what happens, right? It happens all the time because I feel very fortunate that I get to talk about money every day as part of my career with people, all these different stories. And what happens is that we can start to think about things differently, but it doesn't always translate, Cynthia, to feeling about things differently. And so, a lot of what I talk about in my book is the invitation for us to learn how to embody wealth, right? How can our bodies catch up to this idea that we can have abundance, that we are enough? And so, that's the piece that I bring to the forefront is like, okay, wealth isn't something just to accumulate, it's not even something just to envision, it's something for us to experience. And what I encourage people to do is to expand how we define wealth and to connect it out, to connect the abundance scarcity cycle where we're trying to push scarcity away by bringing in abundance and connect it to meaning and fulfillment so that we can start to identify the ways that we actually feel fulfilled and feel satisfied because then we start to feel more wealthy. And that is truly when wealth connects to well being.
You know, I'm so glad that you said that, and I love the way that you have started this conversation because I have always felt that when we let things go, when we
Yeah.
surrender, that's when all the beauty and miracles seem to happen. And when we
Yes.
concentrate on the lack, we always are like, oh, I don't have enough, or, I'm poor, I'm poor. We bring more of that into our lives. And I should tell our listeners just how you have set up the book, because I think it's really important the way that in every chapter, you defined what you're going to be talking about, but then you have these mini moments. And I love
Yes.
that in my all my radio shows for the last 26 years, I have something called a miracle moment where I give,
Oh,
yeah, I always have a miracle moment where I have some kind of quote. So I love your mini moments, but and that just sort of gives a question to the reader of that will make them think and dive a little deeper. And one
yeah.
of your first questions in The Power of Enough is, does money define me? And
Yeah.
when I read that, I thought, you know, I think for most people, they feel it does define them. So how do
Yeah.
we get out of that loop?
Yeah, well, and let's bring back, let's bring back to like what money is. Money is a technology, right? And money
Hmm.
has different functions and different uses as currency and a medium of exchange. It can store value, but it's a technology that was created by our ancestors way back when we had to start to expand and go outside of our intimate circle, right? In your intimate circle, in your community of people who know you build trust just because of who you are. And if you need something and you go knock on a neighbor or a friend's door, they will help you, and you don't have to give collateral, you don't have to go through financial underwriting, right? They will just help you because they know you and
Hmm.
they trust you. And
And
as
they
our
love
community,
you.
exactly. And as our communities got bigger and bigger and bigger, we don't have that immediate barometer for trust. Funny enough, like our credit score can sometimes replace that because they're like, well, maybe that's your sense of credit worthiness. And notice the words there, worthiness, right?
Worthy,
We
yeah.
exactly, we've started to connect our net worth with our sense of self-worth. And that's where we've gone down the path of starting to feel defined, constrained by money and limited by money. Because it's like, wait a second, I have natural worth because I'm a human being. and I have the ability and to connect to my power of enough as a human birthright. And this is really important, Cynthia, because people ask me all the time, who'd you write this book for? And in reality, I wrote this book for every human
Everybody.
being who wants to find agency in how they design their relationship to money. Because if money is a social technology and it has a role, but its role is to work with me and to work with my community, and it doesn't define me, I start to feel more spaciousness in the cycles that it has in my life, right? Because one of the things that I tell people, the normal cycles of economics are growth, recession, depression, growth, recession, depression. It's kind of like the seasons on a tree, right? The tree grows leaves and then it drops the leaves and it
Hmm.
grows leaves. And we don't question that when it comes to nature, but we don't like economic cycles, and we tend to like money to go one way, which is up, right? Increase in my accounts. And what I tell
But
people,
that's
it's
not
kind of like
reality. That's just
it's
not reality. Yeah.
it's not reality and it's not healthy. It's kind of like telling your spouse, I want you to be happy every single day, right? That's not
Hmm.
going to happen. And you lose some of the growth that comes in the harder moments. So if you take the root of those words, recession and depression, it's a recess, a depress. Take your foot off the pedal, like start to look at what potentially needs to shift. What do you need to let go of? What needs to be digested for the organic new growth to come? So I want to go back to something you said that was so important, this element of surrender, right? I love that you brought that to this conversation, because let's go back to the abundance scarcity cycle. If you are pushing scarcity away, like I would encourage your listeners, take your arm and push it away, and simultaneously grab onto abundance, almost like we kind of grasp it, hoarding. Both of those actions require effort. And they have a role. Effort's important. That's how we walk in the world, right? That's how we put one foot in the other. But then drop both hands to your side in that practice of surrender, and notice how your body takes a deeper breath of like, oh, let me just be in this moment. Let me just take stock and appreciate all the resources that I have at my disposal. And it's really important, monetary and non monetary resources. And let me just surrender a little bit more, that I have access to resources that I can use to design my life. And so it's a different entry point.
And that's so beautiful the way you have explained it, because I do believe that we design our own lives. And if
Yeah.
we don't, the life is going to design it for us, and it may not be the way that we want to. But, defining wealth as you are defining it, it's not all about financial
No.
abundance or the money in the bank. It really is about having this a loving relationship, intimate relationships, having health, you know,
Yep.
um, having being able to grow as a person and to have
Yeah.
purpose in our lives. I mean, we all need passion and purpose, and I
Right.
think that when we have those things, it's like when you do it, it's an old cliche now, an older book, but do what you love, and the money will follow. And I do find that that is actually a truism. Again, when you get to surrender and just be really a present and truthful to who you are, and not be so worried about every dollar and cent. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's
It
how I
does.
feel.
And I would say two things to that, right? Because I would probably shift that saying and say, do what you love, and then sit down and have a conversation with money and see if money wants to participate there, or does money want to participate elsewhere. And that's really important, what I mean by that. And I go into the conversation with money in chapter 3
Right. I was
is
just going to say
it,
that was an interesting
yeah,
chapter to talk about.
yeah.
I never really thought about talking to my money, but yes, it
Oh,
does change you.
I mean, we are in relationship. It's like the white elephant in the room. We're in relationship with money every single day, in your wallet, in your app, or digitally, wherever you have it in cash.
Hmm.
And what happens is it's kind of like, again, I laugh about this with my husband. It's like me walking into my house every day, not talking to my husband, and expecting him to understand what I want, know my expectations, show up how I want. I mean, he would go crazy. He'd be like, "What? You're like that? That's just not possible." And so part of it is that if we start to see our relationship to money as one that's a two-way street, where we can start to be very clear on expectations, we can listen to what money has to say as well. We can learn about it. We can teach it about us. It starts to become a different conversation. And so when I want to go back to the saying to say, follow your passions and then sit down and have a conversation with money, right? So I was having this conversation with a podcaster where he's like, oh, do I stop podcasting because I really want to be a woodworker? And we had a great conversation about it. And I'm like, well, how much woodworking do you want to do? Can it support your life? And he's like, actually, I want it to be my art. And I do want to sell pieces, but I don't want it to replace, I don't want to
Take
do it
over
all the
your
time.
life. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I'm like, okay, great. Let's have a conversation with money. Be super clear what role money has in woodworking. Be super clear what role does money have in podcasting. Be super clear what role it has in other elements. And you start to realize we can create different streams of income, right? Because we're in a more active, creative conversation of how money can show up in our lives, and we can see what is working, what it's not. None of it says don't do your passions, right? None of it says don't go explore your purpose, but be in conversation to see, okay, do I explore my purpose in this way and I can make money? Do I explore it in this way and I partially make money from it, right? Or is it my purpose that I don't make money from it? You can do both. Because if you don't follow your passions and you don't do your purpose, we start to scapegoat money and get angry at it because it doesn't let us, can't see my air quotes, but let us do what we're here to do. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
we have to take responsibility for that.
Well, and the whole idea is by having this conversation with money, you really get clear on what you are, what money means to you and what it is, because money is really nothing, right?
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
it's just something that we trade with. Well, I like chapter 5 too. You always have some takeaways, and
Yeah.
how where you talk in chapter 5, you talk about how true wealth is embodied, how it goes
Yeah.
beyond the accumulation of material possessions and financial assets. And so we have to plug into the wisdom of the body, the heart, and the mind. And to me, that really resonated, because when we are connected to our full being, I think that the connection to money goes along with that, so that we can have a healthy relationship to
Yeah.
money, and that we're not just a consumer, but we become more of a participant in, more connected, I guess is the right word. Is that what
Yeah.
you really meant by that
A
chapter?
hundred 100%. And I think an easy example is, what's the difference between empty consumption and fulfilling consumption, right? And we know that when it comes to like empty consumption of calories, like what's a
Right.
meal that was super nourishing, and what's a meal like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I just put in my mouth, right? I
Hmm.
was moving too fast. And so the same thing is, as we consume things in our lives, because consumption is a neutral act, right? Using money is a neutral act, but the quality of what we consume will impact how much satisfaction we feel. It helps us get out of the empty ghost syndrome of consumption, and it doesn't satisfy anything. And that's a lot of the rat race that people get on, right? They're like, I'm not quite feeling satisfied. And so a lot of what I tell people, let's come back to the basic conversation of, as human, we have universal needs. And that's chapter 7, right? The needs mandala. And we have universal needs. Let's get over the fact that we have them. So we're not needy. These are the motivations that give us a fulfilling life. We also have satisfiers, which are the strategies that we satisfy these needs with. Those are unique and personal. So needs are universal, but the strategies we use and employ are personal. And so it starts to become super interesting. This is where the joy comes in of like, oh my gosh, I get to design how I'm satisfying my wealth mandala. Where am I bringing resources, right? And resources in some cases are money. Resources can be connections. Resources
Yeah,
can
it
be
could be
creativity, right?
people, right? It could be anything. Yeah,
Exactly.
resources
But
or
then
anything that brings abundance into your life. That's another resource.
exactly. Resources, time, right? And so when you start to be like, oh my gosh, wealth in economics is defined in much wider perspective of resources, much wider perspective of needs, much wider perspective of fulfillment. It takes on a whole different flavor to it. And then as you start to satisfy these different needs, one of the things that I talk about in the book, right, in all chapters, is this concept of to embody wealth, you need to take time to literally swallow, right? Swallow those moments when you feel satisfied and let that swallowing be a message to your body that I'm consuming that which I know is really good for me. And I'm going to teach my body how to store and compound these moments of meaning. We call them like memory dividends, right? Meaning dividends. I'm going to compound them just like an investment account can compound interest. And the more we compound them, Cynthia, the easier it is to get back there, right? Because every day is going to throw us a curveball, and that's okay. That's the cyclical nature of life. But if I in my body know how to get back to my core, know how to get back to that experience of abundance, know how to get back to that experience of joy, whatever that experience is for you that you use to describe fulfillment, you can get there faster and more efficiently because you're learning what are the strategies that work for you.
Well, you brought up the mandala, and you actually have a whole chapter on how to create your wealth mandala.
Yes.
So, why don't you talk about that? And let me just give the name of the book again if you're just joining me. We're talking about the new book, The Power of Enough, Finding Joy in Your Relationship with Money. And I think it's something that all of us need to
Mm.
find joy in our relationship with money and not just be so stressed out about
Yeah.
having not enough or whatever. So let's talk about creating a wealth mandala. How do you do it?
Yes. So a mandala, right, is a Sanskrit word for circle, and it's kind of the path out of suffering. So an easy way, you can get in the book. You can also go to my website and download the free resource, and it clearly maps out what are the 12 human needs that we're all in relationship with. Some may be more important to you, but we're all in a relationship with, and I leave two spaces for you to choose your own because there might be a particular thing that you're working on in your life. So what you do is that you print it out, it's a piece of paper, and then you take your favorite colors and you color it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you colored the full petal. So imagine a flower petal, right? So each petal has a need. You color it 10 all the way to the border. If it's a 1, you're not feeling very satiated or you feel some lack there, you can color very little of it. And then you put it up on the wall, Cynthia. I like to tell people, tape it to the wall. And I first want you to appreciate the beauty of whatever your flower looks like or whatever your mandala looks like, right? It's like when you look at a flower, it's never perfect. It's petals, right? Some are in one shape and some are in a different shape. And so when you look at the wealth mandala, the invitation is to go towards it with unconditional acceptance of this is where you are in your life. Some of the petals are more filled out. So pause there and have the invitation is to go there and be like, what's working? What strategies am I naturally employing in those areas of my life that are working? I'm feeling fulfilled. How do I then bring that insight towards the needs in my life or those petals that I'm feeling potentially more lack in for whatever reason, or I'm feeling a little weaker in, right? Or I'm more challenged by. How do I bring the strategies that are working in other areas, or B, how do I say, you know what, money? It's time for us to have a conversation. I would like to address, right, the need for physical health this year, or I want to address the need for safety or protection or purpose or participation. And then you start to create a plan of like, that's going to be my focus. And I'm going to apply both monetary and non-monetary strategies to start to fulfill it. And that's really important, Cynthia, is the idea of as we start to design our wealth mandala, not just using money to satisfy our needs, because then again, we get stuck in this codependent relationship with money, but getting really creative to be like, actually, this need for connection, yes, I can satisfy it by taking my closest girlfriend out to dinner. I'm going to choose a girlfriend every week for this month, and that's going to be amazing. But equally important, let me just ask them to go take a hike or a walk or a phone call and connect with them that way. Both have a role to play, but you're able to then take your strategies, bring it to your spreadsheet or however you track your finances, and now your needs are starting to design how you utilize the resources you have. Again, both financial resources and non-financial resources.
And just your life resources. Well, one of my favorite chapters was chapter 8 that is called What is Enough?
Yeah.
Redefining Success as Satiation. And that first paragraph just wowed me because most of us, when we are done with the meal, we're taught to say, I'm full. But
Yeah.
your mom taught you to say, I feel satisfied. And there is a difference between full and satisfied. And I just think about when I thought of this, I thought of someone who's quite famous that I've worked with for several years, who, eh, hit the jackpot and became very wealthy. And his wife said to him, can we slow down now?
Mm,
Well, because can we travel? Can we do some things? I mean, we've made it. When is enough enough? And his response, there's never enough. And I'll
right.
never forget that because it's bothered me for so talk
Yeah.
about when is
Yeah.
enough enough?
Yeah, no, that's, and he's not alone. Like I hear people
No,
walk into the office and say that. Or the other thing they tell me, Cynthia, is I want so much money, I don't want to think about it. That doesn't solve the problem either,
other
right?
no. Oh, Elizabeth,
Mm.
what? That's interesting. They actually walk in and tell you that.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, 9 out of 10 clients, right? Like we're like, okay, what are your goals? I want enough money, I don't have to think about it. At this point, I just smile and I'm like, yep, heard that one before. And
But
what
when
the
people say that, I mean, it's like enough money could be a penny more or it could be
yeah.
$1 million. I mean, don't we have to be a little bit more specific and then
Uh,
consider our whole body, mind, and heart and spirit? That's
well,
part of
here,
the wealth, right?
yeah, well, here's the thing is that when we say that, or when we say there's never enough, we are bypassing, right? We're psychologically and spiritually bypassing our work in this world. It is
Mm,
our job to take responsibility for our footprint, right? And so
uh,
that means
agree.
getting super clear on what's my footprint to support my family, to have the savings I need in the bank, to do the things that are important to me, and to know when is excess, right? And that's a really edgy conversation for us to have as a society, but I think it's time that we start to have it. And I say that with no judgment, right? Because we haven't been taught how to have these conversations. I say that with a lot of loving kindness to be like, you know what? At some point, we have too much and it becomes harder to even manage having so much. And so let's take a step back and say, okay, what do I actually need to support my life? And there is financial planning involved in that, right? Like I have a job for a reason and I love what I get
That's
to
right.
do,
You love it. You
right?
love your financial planning. Yes,
I
you
love
love
my
it.
phone because I love math and I love to be like, let's solve backwards. Let's do reverse engineering. What do you need? And then let's talk about what's the excess, right? Like I had a client walk in last year and she's an immigration attorney and she loves what she does. Her mom had just passed and so she was obviously grieving the passing of her mom, and she's like, my mom left me this money, I don't need it, I love my job, what do I do with it? She was viscerally uncomfortable, right? Because
Hmm.
obviously she'd rather have her mom alive than have
Of
this
course.
money.
Yeah.
And so we had this great conversation and she's like, but I also feel the pressure that if I give it away my mom's going to be disappointed in me, right? Because she had worked so hard for it. So we started to move backwards into, okay, what needs to shift in your life, if anything? And then how can we think of this asset as a generosity fund, right? Who in your life can we start to impact in a positive way? It could be direct contributions. It can be you get involved. It could be you scale back to 80% because you have two young children and time with them is more important and this can support, right? We started to have that more interesting conversation. How can money support you in your goals in the next chapter of development for you, and knowing how much is enough in terms of savings and accumulating more, right? And that's our job to
That's
do.
powerful. That is a
Super.
powerful message because, like what you just said, I mean, if you have that amount of abundance and because money is a tool, it's just a
Yeah.
tool, right?
Yeah.
And so you were
Yeah.
able to give her guidance that she
Yeah.
could think about that could improve her life and importantly, the life of her family, her young
Yep.
children, and perhaps some people or a nonprofit or a charity around her that maybe could get involved in or make a difference in somebody
Uh,
else's life.
100%. And she just kind of like rolled up her sleeves. And again, it's her responsibility to get clear on those causes. And that
Yes.
takes work. And I think that's the piece is that owning our relationship to money is work. It can be super
It's work.
joyful
Yeah.
work, right? But like a marriage is work, right? I've been married, I don't even know how long, but for 2 decades now. And I'm in a much better place today with my husband because of the work we've done. And I'm so grateful,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so the same thing, right, is if we can start to embrace our relationship to money as something, it's a doorway and a mirror to knowing who we are,
So
then
you
something
talk
in us,
about the money story, Elizabeth, which is what
yes,
you're talking in now. So just as like a final thing, because we're running out of time, is give us a tip on people who just, besides reading your book, The Power of Enough, which I'm going to recommend, they should read your book and we'll give out your website. But how can someone just, rewrite or re-examine what they're telling themselves about
yeah,
money? How do we rewrite the story? How do we make a new tape? Because these tapes
yeah.
are just going round and round, and probably a lot of stuff is handed down from family or people that you know or something. And it might not be so helpful to the life that you want to lead and live and love by.
Yeah, no, 100%. And there's a whole chapter dedicated to telling and writing out your money story. And in fact, you can, again, go to the website for your resource, download it, and write it out. And what I tell people, Cynthia, because I literally have them write it out like 5 years at a time, almost like mini decade at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And what's important is write out as much as you can in as much detail. And it may take you several days or several weeks to do. Then I tell people, step away from it, like literally put it aside, come back to it a week later and read it
And
as if
check
it
it
were
out.
your, no, 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 hold on. Read it as if it were your best friend's story.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read it from that perspective of someone that you deeply care about, right, your best friend, start to look for those themes, those recurring patterns, those behaviors, those beliefs, right? Start to identify the ways in which you were resilient as a kid, perhaps, or that you didn't have answers.
And this is chapter 9, writing your money story.
Yes,
You call it turning taboos into treasure. And again, your first line is so important because
yes,
it is true. The stories that we tell ourselves or that we've heard, they do hold a lot of power over us. So that's where we need to
yeah.
rewrite it. We do need to share what we're thinking, but I think there's power in getting it down on paper or on your computer, getting it out of your head, because
Yeah,
that way you can really see what you're thinking about.
be- and that way you can also start to release, because that was a really important piece that you brought
Yes.
up, is that I tell all my clients, because they all tell me their
Surrender.
story, and actively decide, what do you want to take and pass on to the next generation, what no longer serves you, create some ritual, let it go.
Yep. That's such great advice. Well, the book is called The Power of Enough. Let's give out the website. I'm going to spell it. So Elizabeth is spelled Elizabeth, and then her last name Husserl.com. So there's two H's right next to each other. So go to the website. You'll also find tools there that you can download the mandala and color it the way you want. And as Elizabeth said, she's left a couple of spaces in it so that if there's something that's important to you, you can write that in and then color it the way you want it. But learn to create your story, get familiar with your what do I want to say? Your conversation. I like that idea of the conversation
Hmm.
with money. So, Elizabeth, why don't you just give a wrap up of what you would like? What's the last takeaway that you would like to leave for our readers and our listeners with your book, The Power of Enough, Finding Joy in Your Relationship with Money?
So, what's coming up in this moment is the invitation to all the listeners to let go of the struggle with money by first and foremost accepting that you're in a relationship with it and knowing that you have the agency and power to design a clean slate. It does not have to look like the relationship that you saw that your parents had. It can be your own if you roll up the sleeves, have a conversation with money, tell your money story, learn about your wealth mandala. And there's so much possibility that you and money can co create together.
Oh, Elizabeth, that's a beautiful way to embrace the power of enough. I think it's a life-changing book if people will just read it and follow the instructions and have some fun with it because
Yeah.
it's a joyful book and you will feel like you have enough, you are enough. So thank you
Yes.
so much, Elizabeth, for joining us on Star Style. Be the star you are. Much success to you and to all your clients that you are so elegantly and eloquently guiding, because this is definitely something that we want to uncover how we can have a good connection and conversation with money. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. It's been such a pleasure to be on the show. So I appreciate the invitation and may everyone take a little golden nugget and let it sink in. So thank you for having me.
Exactly, exactly. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. You've been listening to Cynthia Bryan. This is Star Style. Be the star you are. We'll be right back with a business bite, so don't go away. Are you passionate about your business? If not, why not? People who are using their passion to run their businesses are happier, more fun loving, and have less stress and are more excited about life. Do you know how to turn your passions into profits? First of all, write down what you love to do in life. And don't worry if it seems crazy or impossible. Dream the dream, write the plan, eliminate the naysayers in your life. All you need is one honest, supportive person. Then go into action to get the skills you need. Believe in yourself and all the possibilities. If you are having fun, others will too. And with enough patience, courage, and perseverance, the profits will come rolling in, and you're going to feel alive because you have discovered your passion. Remember, you're the star of your own performance. Turn your passions into profits. I'm Cynthia Bryan with another business bite from Star Style. For more information, visit cynthiabryan.com. That's Cynthia Bryan, Bryan with an I.com. Well, I'm so happy you're still listening to Star Style Be the Star You Are. Thank you so much. You are enough, and you'll enjoy the book, The Power of Enough, Finding Joy in Your Relationship with Money. Well, now I just want to talk about some ways to de stress because the relentless hustle of just everyday life sometimes stops our ability to simply just be and sit with our thoughts. We really have to be able to focus on the present moment. That's a superpower, and not all of us have it, but we can develop it. We are inundated with stressors, and I really think that if we can develop a mindfulness practice, we are going to have overall health in all ways. We'll feel better. It'll just be a better well being. And so the good news is that following mindfulness techniques actually transform, you know, just about anybody into a practitioner. So you first would start with your breath work, conscious, controlled breathing. that's an entry point to mindfulness. As an acting coach, breathing is what I've always taught all of my clients to start with. A deep breath, a really deep breath that is, I call it a belly breath that goes down to the diaphragm, and it truly lowers your stress hormones and it produces relaxation. Sometimes with the breath, I like to do a roar. So I let out the stress when I'm exhaling out and just roar it out. And anybody can do this anywhere. You can sit in a seat or you can lie on the floor, but just inhale deeply through your nose, like for a count of 4 or 5, hold for a count of 4 or 5, and then exhale for another count of 4, and then hold again for another count. And then just keep repeating this cycle for a few minutes every day. And I think you're going to find that your stress is going to melt away. Now, as the goddess gardener, you know that I'm always talking about nature. And if you are struggling, with just being too active or you can't sit still, you could do what we call a walking meditation. And what that is that you would just go and you would do a walk in nature. It could be around your garden, it could be in a park, it could be on a hike, but you definitely want to have some kind of nature elements, whether it's a tree or creeks or the wind blowing. So just go. I think a wooded area is probably the best. And be aware of all the sensations in your body as you move and with your breath. So you can just let your mind enjoy everything that is around you. Take in the sights, the sounds, the smells. It's really nature therapy. It's connecting you with the outdoors, with the earth, with the planet. And what it does is it lowers your cortisol levels, and it's just going to promote a sense of calm. I mean, when I have to do any thinking or I'm trying to write a new book or an article, I go into the garden and I really like to be by water. So I have 7 fountains and ponds on my property because I really have to hear the sound of water in order for my brain to just kind of stop and be in the moment. So this is a really important thing to do. Another thing that is good for you is a digital detox. And because I think having all of our smartphones and all of our all of our digital uh, I don't know, iPads and whatever you have, that they can cause anxiety and depression and sleep disturbances. So for a full day every week, just unplug from everything. And again, try to go out into the garden. And finally, I would say I would write a gratitude journal. You can keep it on your computer or keep it by hand by your bedside. It's going to help you a lot just to be grateful for the simple things in life. And it'll show you all the abundance that you already have and that you will know that you are already enough. I mean, and it can be specific, that pillow you have to put your head on, some food in your stomach, a good friend, a conversation. All of those are things to be grateful for. And of course, health is wealth. Well, that's our show for today. So thank you for listening to Star Style, Be the Star You Are. You can change your life. You can make your dreams come true. For more information about Star Style Productions or to purchase any of my books, visit CynthiaBryan.com. That's Brian with an I. To make a donation to Be the Star You Are charity that brings you the experts each week and this show, please visit BeTheStarYouAre.org. We did win a nonprofit of the year, and everyone is a volunteer here. There are no paid staffers, including myself. BeTheStarYouAre.org. My aim is always to encourage, inspire, inform, amuse, and motivate. See beyond your physical being. Know you already are the star you dreamed of becoming. Cherish the past, dream of the future. Celebrate every moment of your life and read a book this week. It is like a garden in your pocket. And I think The Power of Enough will help you in many, many ways. So until next week, when we play again here in the Star Style Playground, remember that love always wins, kindness always prevails, and smiles will keep us happy. I'm Cynthia Bryan 4-star style, thanking you and encouraging you to be your unapologetically authentic self. In other words, be the star you are. Thanks for joining me.